Good morning. Welcome to our first meeting for 2025, the County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. And we will start with the pledge. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to add a small presentation from our local 49ers, maybe just right after public comment.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We will do that. Anything else? Motion to approve?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. At this time, we have an opportunity for public comment, and anybody in the audience who would like to come up and have a little discussion or a clarity of what you're thinking can come up right after. I see nobody in the audience, so we will move on then to your presentation.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we have Dan Manick and Scott Benolkin and Matt Olson, all from 49ers here, and there's a picture, I believe, they're presenting to Cook County and taken by one of our local guys too, and I haven't seen it yet, but it looks like quite the deal.
So, Chair Sturley, thank you for the time. If we were in a public comment, we were limited to 5 minutes, probably wouldn't be able to do it. And thank you, Board, for listening. This is kind of out of my wheelhouse, so if you don't mind, I'll just pretend this is contract negotiations.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I did want to speak a little bit about labor relations, just a little background on what Local 49 does. So, for 30 years, I was a heavy equipment operator for Coochin County. For some reason, Local 49 saw fit to hire me as a business agent to represent a bunch of people in the job that I used to do. So I travel all over northeast Minnesota. I probably got 22, 23 contracts, including this one. I love representing the guys that do the exact same thing. I know exactly what they're out doing, like today. I was hoping to get a few more guys to show up there, but they're out doing their job, plowing snow. So when I got this job almost 6 years ago, I inherited all these contracts, and I was brand new at it, so I didn't know what I was getting into. And when I started coming up here, I don't want to paint it as a horrible picture, but I could tell we need some help here, just labor and management, and we're always encouraged to set up labor management committees in all of our groups, and some employers aren't receptive to. We've got too many meetings already. But so back in the day, Pam Dixon got us going on labor management committee, and then James came along and he took that ball and he rolled with it. So fast forward through several negotiations. I don't know if Chair Story, if you sat in. I know Commissioner White and Commissioner Mills. I hope they feel the same way I do. I won't be doing this much longer, but I won't do another contract with this group. Sometime this year I plan on retiring, no date. So I think this is an exceptional group with the administration, the crew we have. So now I'm not doing this everywhere, but so I'm here on behalf of my crew, and just wanted to, just on behalf of the great work that James did. I was trying to get this picture. I had ordered it, and I know he had come back to help trying to finish up some contracts. Something happened with the root printing, wherever he got this from, and they didn't get it in time. So this is on behalf of my crew. This is a presentation of the county on behalf of James Yorkie. When I was leaving, I figured, well, this is great because we got James here, we got great commissioners, so Rowan's interim, I have no idea what your plans are. I hope somebody continues James' great work, and you continue to work with labor management and this crew. I always look at it as a triangle. We've got me, I'm the union, your employees, and the employer. That triangle is working real well here. you know, if one of us is out of place, if I come in here with a baseball bat demanding things, that triangle falls apart. I appreciate what the county board has done for our crew. You're retaining employees, you treat your people very fair. So we have a photo that Josh Dix, so we have a quarterly magazine we produce, and I can't get to job sites all the time, so I call Josh and say, hey Josh, if you see a project sometime this summer, you know, take a picture and submit for a magazine, you know. So Josh took this picture, building this thing up. They have something like this should be in the Louvre. And you're all gonna be so disappointed after this building, I give this picture, and it's huge. But, so anyway, Josh.
You, right?
Yeah. They call that a character of myself, but we're giving it So Josh took this picture. Man, that's a nice picture. I submitted it for the magazine, and when I submitted it for our quarterly magazine, they even said, wow, what a beautiful picture, you know. And there's just something about it, the colors, that really, it's really a neat, it's a picture of a job site, and I told the guys, they haven't seen this yet. There's no safety violations, which is always great. And some good photos if there's some OSHA violation happening, you know. So kudos to the guys, you know, working very safely. So I have this very same picture hanging in our office in Duluth. We loved it so much, you know. Every day I walk in, I see this picture, you know, and very partial to it because I did this work for 30 years, and I wish Josh were here to take credit for the photo. But anyway, if you guys want to rip the paper off, I know it's kind of big. I've been up here, I was up here a few weeks ago, kind of walking through Visitor Row, and I'm looking at the hallways, like, man, where can we put, what, you know, maybe it's gonna go in a closet if you don't think it.
Oh, no.
But, when you go into any place that's got historical photos, we're seeing the old black and white pictures of things, you know, that I love history, you know. Wow, look at those old machines that we used to operate. Well, at some point, if this is on the wall 100 years from now, somebody's gonna say, look, that's back in the days when they actually sat in the machine, because we'll have autonomous, you know, machine. There's gonna be no operators anymore. It's gonna be, you know, somebody sitting in a pickup running that bulldozer with an iPad, you know. So at least 100 years from now, somebody's say, look at how antiquated their equipment was. So anyway, if you guys don't mind ripping the paper off, I hope it's a really beautiful picture.
Should we have a drum roll?
I hope we all agree.
Or do you want to bring it?
Maybe we should, you know, if the board
I'll do
chair-
the drum roll.
If board
Oh,
chair
come on.
wouldn't mind coming and help open this
Will
up.
you take a picture? There's my camera. I mean, right there.
You're gonna go do this. I'm gonna take a camera. I'm
And
taking
I would
the
like to get
picture.
a nice picture
You
of
take the picture. I'll
someone
go up
on
and
the
help.
board with my two guys.
I don't know where the picture, okay,
Uh,
got it. I'll take it.
David, will-
Good save.
Member of all 49.
I'm happy to.
So we can send it to James.
Yeah. You're gonna rip it off from the back side?
Is it okay if I take a video, actually? This will be.
Let's see.
Sign releases.
This is the board.
Question, do we do this like small children or like mature adults? It's going to be used as paper
You do
somewhere
you,
down the
Deb,
road?
yeah.
Children as it is.
We're just gonna rip it apart with the enthusiasm that's been
Okay,
built
we'll
up.
get the picture first.
Okay.
Take it before and after.
Yep,
Yep.
got it.
After would be all of us playing with the wrapper.
And then we'll do the picture with the picture.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
go for it.
Okay. You don't get to see that.
Nice. That is gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's cool.
what's in the picture?
Yeah, it's a dirty old culvert they were replacing, so that the highway department staff will love that, the supervisors, like, we made a good call to replace that old culvert. That thing was on the verge of collapsing or whatever.
What road?
I don't know what road it,
Falcon.
and I think we have a retiree, Greg Thompson is on the bulldozer, so it's already got some history because he's retired. I do believe Danny, I forget his last name, he's on.
Berglund.
Yep, Berglund's on the excavator, and I'm not sure who was on the dump truck, but there's just something about the colors. It was early fall, the leaves were starting to turn yellow with the yellow equipment, you know, so I hope you can find a place for it. We love
That is awesome.
picture.
That's great.
Picture.
Thank you, Dan.
In the fall, that's really gorgeous.
No, I don't think you're in.
Well, you guys have to pose though, because you're all looking at it when you're this way instead of at the cameras.
Wait,
So we gotta turn it around.
Yeah, once more, yeah.
Maybe go up.
Everyone was looking at the picture instead of at us, so we couldn't get a,
Water table.
for an
oh, so we
after.
need to look at you?
You gotta look at the camera, yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Thank you very much, and I hope you can find a spot for it.
Oh, yeah.
I do have a smaller version of that, that I'm gonna send to James.
Aw,
And this is his piece.
yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep,
thank you very much.
yep, thank you.
Put it right in front of me,
We could put it right
right
there.
here.
Behind us.
That's a good point. There's room, we don't use that.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Okay, wow.
I think I combed my hair this morning, not quite certain.
Okay, so we'll go on to the consent agenda, and just for clarification for Commissioner Gamble, there are times that you can pull something that you might have a question on. However, we'll not discuss it at the time. We'll put it on later in the agenda. But, you know, there's, of course, our minutes and donations, lots of generous donations, and some approvals for vacant positions, and the EDA authority, on down to Northeast Minnesota Emergency Communications. So does anybody want to pull anything on this?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just items on I and it would be H and I.
H and I. Okay. So then, we can,
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing items H and I.
is there a second?
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, so H and I, we can go down to, maybe put it, it's a health situation, so probably before item number 7. And the appointment that we did make today, and he's here with us, so I would like to introduce Neil Pederson, our Assistant Attorney. If you could just come up and say a few words about yourself, because we're very happy that you are accepting that position.
Thank you.
Welcome.
My name's Neil Pederson. I've been with the county now since March as Assistant County Attorney 1. Now if you approve it, I'd be very thankful if you did. I'd be Assistant County Attorney 2. Moved up here, it will be 3 years in June, from Minneapolis with my family. I have a wife and 3 kids. My oldest is now actually out of the nest, but my youngest is a 4th grader this year. And we moved up here, we wanted to enjoy the beauty of the North Shore and have some land to raise animals and garden on. Been able to do that, we've been very fortunate. And kind of a surprising bonus for all that is I've also found an amazing community here. And I see my role as a assistant county attorney as helping give back to the community. Feel very privileged and honored to be able to do it.
Okay, very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner Surley, I have
Yes.
a question. What's your area of expertise in law? I mean, is it like real estate or contract law, or where have you focused the most of your time on?
So the law firm that I was in a private civil law firm before I worked for the county, and we focused exclusively on employment law.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Well, welcome to the group.
Thank you
Welcome
very
to the
much.
team, as I would say.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Neil. You too.
You too. So moving on to item number 4, the conveyance of the sale of the land to the HRA. So we discussed in December the opportunity for private-owned county land to become part of a Anna Hamilton development. And so we're going to take this opportunity to approve a resolution that would convey the property to the HRA approval. And I don't know if Rowan would have any background on that to give any other details other than we do have Anna here.
Nothing additional, just what the board discussed previously, and that we're waiting for the documentation to support the resolution, which we have now.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to share kind of my journey in this item. I had a lot of reservations conveying public land over to private ownership, and I really wanted to ensure kind of that long-term viability as affordable housing. And I took the opportunity in between our meetings to speak with our former HRA director, Jason Hale, about this. And he understood my concerns, and basically what it comes down to is, whereas this may not be the perfect solution for our housing needs, if this doesn't happen, there really isn't a whole lot else happening. And so it's really important, if we're trying to make strides towards solving our housing crisis, that we do take action and we do compromise and try to make progress. So kind of the idea is it may not be a perfect solution, but it's much better than no solution. And I'm still hesitant and a little uncomfortable, but I would support this sale. One of the other factors is just kind of that insurance that, for whatever reason, if something doesn't go through, it would go back to the HRA, and it wouldn't just stay in private ownership. And so that also gave me a little more comfort. Generally, the Hamilton Habitat model has the 5 years if it's sold, and then within that, half of the proceeds would go back to Hamilton Habitat. And I like that idea. I would like to see it longer, or some kind of gradated system for that. But as it was pointed out previously, it's not my place to decide how that organization is run. But just food for thought for something in the future.
Commissioner White?
And I would just like to point out again that Hamilton Habitat is local developers, and building at cost, selling at cost, probably selling below cost, because Cook County Home Center has sold their materials for the construction of all of their buildings at their cost. So there's no markup. So the homes that are built by Hamilton Habitat are truly a community effort to get housing for community people. And it's just one part of trying to find a solution for the housing shortage. And Hamilton Habitat has quite a they've been doing this like a long time, I don't even know how long, and they live here. So I think it's my pleasure and honor to be able to help move this forward.
Madam Chair, thank you. Having had discussions in this community on housing for a number of years, 15 plus, there's been so much discussion, and there's been discussion in the Arrowhead region relative to the shortage of housing. It's not unique to Cook County, it's not unique to the Arrowhead, but there are the challenges, and I know that Cook County prides itself on being resourceful and understanding what resourcefulness is and how we go about accomplishing things with thinking that sometimes is different than the approach that other people take. I know that there was a conference that was held, a workshop in northern Minnesota, and the presentation with the facilitator was, we've got a housing problem, and we need to deal with it, and the best way to deal with it is to deal with it by just taxing people to get the funds. And I think I was the only commissioner at that time that attended that conference, and our proposed levy at that year was 29%, and adding additional costs on levy to solve our problems doesn't demonstrate resourcefulness. This is an example of resourcefulness. It has accountability, it has built-in structure that shows that there's awareness of what we need to do when we approach these things. So resourcefulness, while it might be outside of the box, is not outside of the responsibility of accountability. And so I applaud this effort, and in our community, it's good to see when we come up and step up to the plate and solve these things through our resourcefulness and people that are committed to protect the right things. So, thank you.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes, I'd just like to thank Hamilton Habitat, and I'd like to thank Charlie Trovall for all the work that you've done on this particular parcel. I know it's been a very difficult time, particularly this time of year, Charlie, for you to get in there and do your work, but we appreciate it so much. And Charlie, if you could come forward to the mic and just talk to the community, the people that are listening in right now, and give them a little overview of what you discovered as you were looking at that parcel, because that's kind of the last piece that we are looking for.
Yeah, so anyways, Charlie Trovall with North Shore Land Surveying. Hamilton and HRA asked us to look at this parcel for them. The biggest thing that they needed was a legal description of what the parcel that they wanted to get conveyed from the county for it. And as you start looking back at it, you got to figure out, well, okay, this is a county parcel that's had a lot of little parcels that they acquired the whole tract back in the 1941, if I recall, and then there was a lot of smaller parcels pulled out of it. So, you know, because it's been in county ownership for so long, you had to decipher, okay, where are all these other parcels at, even though they're, you know, blocks or way away from it, of what the county still owned of that property to be able to write a legal for it. So, and then also there's the 4th Avenue on that side, which is there, but trying to find all the documentation from that brought us all the way back into like the 1920s of, okay, here's when this was actually part of the old village plat of Grand Marais, but then that whole chunk was like 1923 was vacated, which then left the street still there, so we had to be able to put a legal description that matches into that. On the south of the property, there's that big drainage ditch that runs above the ball field, which just seemed like a nice natural boundary for the parcel. So that was some of our field work, was to map where that drainage ditch was, so we could run a line more or less down the drainage ditch, versus to make sure we didn't, you know, chop into the ball field too much or something along those lines. So yeah, so there was just a lot of paperwork, digging and trying to just come up with something that made sense to get to this point of being able to have a legal description of what HRA and Hamilton Habitat would like to acquire.
All right, well, thank you so much. It's great to have that history, and helpful for the public to have that information as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? So then today's our opportunity to support this resolution. Is there a motion?
So I'd like to make a motion to convey this county-owned land to the HRA.
Support?
Okay. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Brady, did you
Is-
have a question?
Is this for the price shown?
$1.
$1.
Your work is cut out for you now.
Pardon me?
Your work is cut out for you.
Well, that's for sure.
Thank you.
All right, go build 6 houses.
Thank you so much.
All right, fantastic.
Okay, item number 5 is the Caribou Lake Watershed Subordinate District Special Assessment and a need to set a public hearing. Brady?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Caribou Lake Property Owners Association has requested to put a special assessment on the ownership around that lake and Bigsby Lake, Caribou and Bigsby. $250 to be used over a 5-year period. They've been doing this, the AUAR was created some 20 years ago or so. And they've renewed that a couple of times and asked to have their property owners assessed for water quality. They do work for water quality. They've seen an uptick in their needs to keep that water pristine, and so they've increased it this time. That district still exists. In the past, it was allowed to lapse, but this last time when it was renewed in 2021, it still exists. So at this time, you just need to approve the funding for it. But at the last meeting, when this first came up, commissioners were uncomfortable with, well, they asked the question, does everybody that would be assessed, are they all aware of it? Do we know that? And we don't know that for certain. The Caribou Lake Properties Owners Association took a vote of the members present and approved this, but it doesn't include the owners around Bigsby Lake, and not everybody may have been aware of it. So commissioners wanted to make sure before they approved this that everyone was aware and in favor of it. And in order to do that, we would have to set a public hearing. That's our normal way of making this known, and probably sending out individual notices to those property owners, and the combination of those two is normally our process to make sure that people are aware and understand. And I think we have a representative here from the, are you in the Caribou Lake Properties Owners Association?
Certainly am.
This is Sharon Hexum-Platzer.
I will disagree slightly with
Sure.
what Brady said.
Do you want to speak at the mic?
I'm sure. Oh,
You
wrong
speak
side.
at the mic.
I can move over here, Jason. I'm good. I will tend to disagree slightly with what Brady said, but I'm going to start off topic. Thank you all for doing this job. I know there's always questions, and sometimes you are on the other side of those questions. And the other off topic is our bridge that's going in across Poplar River. Yes, and it's cold out there, and yes, they're out there working. We will have it done by the end of February, fingers crossed, no days below 10 below zero, according to that contractor. So my slight disagreement is that it was on the Caribou Lake Association agenda twice, and members with emails get those agendas. And those that are able to come to both the spring, May meeting and the September meeting heard conversation about why we needed to change our assessment from $12 per property to $50 was because of the rusty crayfish. And what they are doing, what we have attempted doing, and how the increase of the numbers taken each year. So we need to be able to afford to take care of that. If you'd like further information about rusty crayfish and how many we've taken out and our attempts and our future attempts. I can explain that as well. I will say that at the September meeting, the annual meeting, it was a unanimous vote, and Ginny was there to hear that vote by all those that attended in person. So not totally disagreeing with you,
No.
Brady.
No, it's just, I was just pointing out the board didn't have even all of that information. I didn't either at that time.
right.
So that's why we moved to this meeting.
Yeah, and it's in our minutes, and you can see the agendas online on Caribou Lake Association. Do you need to hear more about how awful rusty crayfish are? They'd be great to eat, remember that, if you like seafood, only it's lake food. The big fish can't eat them, then they destroy grasses that, deal with the sediment. I do know one other thing. If you notice that if you're around our area and you didn't have as many dragonflies, dragonfly larvae are eaten by, right. So if you noticed a few less, that's what's happening. I know, didn't like that. I kept inviting the dragonflies and they didn't come, which meant I had more mosquitoes. Anything more? Please ask. Got notes from Tom Ryder, our president, so.
Madam Chair, I'll mention one of the, let's say, concern of the board at the last meeting when this came up was not having a policy for this. We have policies for the highway subordinate service districts, but when it's something else of a different type like this, we don't have a specific policy. And I'll just point out some of the major points in that policy are probably number one, that you have a single representative for the entire property owner group. And in this case, we have the Caribou Lake Property Owners Association. We're not aware that Bigsby.
Bigsby is part of that.
It is?
Yes.
See, I didn't understand, that
Yes,
wasn't
it
understood
is.
for
It's
me.
the watershed.
Okay.
In fact, those people that live off the lake and are up above, on other roads, are part of that association.
So they vote in your,
Yes.
at your meetings too? Okay, well, that solves that large issue of how do you engage all of the property owners, but as the highway policy is, they would have to elect a single, with the highway policy, they elect a single representative and give us information showing that that's happened. So then you only have one person to deal with for the issues. And then having policies like what are the methods that you can use for assessing, what are the boundaries of the area. Each one has to have something regarding the boundaries and who's included. What is the method for deciding who's included? This one has those decided. They decided previously that it was anybody who is riparian, which means they actually their property actually borders the water. So it isn't somebody who may be back a few blocks and may be impacting the water, but you have to have a decision, where do you stop? And so in this case, that's the decision that was made. But for a policy, you're going to need to have alternatives and then know what those are for any other districts. And so forth. And how you assess, in this case, you assess by property owner was their request. You could assess by many other methods, as highways have found also. So that would be policy. If we want to have a policy, we can discuss that also. In this case, I think most of them are met for this one. But that question is up to you. You could do that as part of the public hearing or at some other time.
Is the single representative other than the chairman of the group, or is that separate from?
Right. Tom Ryder is our president,
Yeah.
and he is out of the country right now, so you get me.
It would be whoever is the chairman, and that can move from year to year
Right.
occasionally.
Usually doesn't, but yes.
Mhm. Okay. And that'll be clarified then in the public hearing, Brady?
I would say this is kind of two tracks. You have most of those questions answered in this case. You could have the public hearing to see whether everyone agrees. You you could take the information that Sharon's given and say, we have enough information on the public's wishes. We could take the step of the public hearing and send out the notices and get further assurance before you put a $250 assessment. That's your decision. And then when you want to set up, work on a policy and set that is also could be done for this, or it could be done at some other time. The timing issue on this is to have this assessment put on this year. All of that has to be done in early February because we have to get that all programmed into the tax system before we finish that process to get those statements out. So it has to happen very quickly.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brady, do you recall in your tenure, in your position, that we've dealt with this similar circumstance so that there would be something that informed that? In other words, if you, like with the highway policy, when you're running into things, on a frequent basis, then establishing policy is the board's stewardship responsibility, making sure that we define the parameters so that the entity itself knows that it's in compliance with that. And I would assume that the state, or certainly other counties, would have examples for us so that that criteria is met.
Yeah, we have that with the highway policy. It just
Yeah.
doesn't apply to anything other than roads, so it would be slightly different than that. So we have that. If you talk to our highway engineer, he'll say no one else in the state does this
Yeah.
the way we do with highways. Literally none that he's aware of. And I'm not sure if we have these kinds of examples for lake associations, we could try and research that, but that wouldn't happen before you need to approve this one if you're going to do it this year. So, I guess to me, it's, are you comfortable that the property owners are informed and you feel comfortable putting the assessment on? Or should we go ahead with the public hearing in this case and sending out notices and then work on a policy for future requests? This may be a request, we have a lot of lakes. And
Madam Chair, thank you. What's the wish of the Lake Association? As far as feeling that you've included the people that are affected by this in your discussions, so coming before the board, that you're comfortable that representation has been had?
I believe that representation has been held because not only, because of when it's held, is everybody able to attend on a Saturday morning? But they talk with their neighbors, and neighbors are saying the same thing. We have to protect that lake.
Yeah.
And, yes, does it impact the value of the property if the crayfish take over? The way that we have attempted to diminish the problem, alleviate the problem, shows that over 3 years, we are doing what we can do financially. And the reason that it's going from $12 to $50 a year is to give us more opportunity. Right now, it's crawdaddies that, I think the first year we took out 12,000, last year it was over 60,000. You probably already heard that part. But we're even thinking about getting a college intern to come in and help supplement that so that we can decrease it. One other lake was able to reduce theirs because of their efforts. So it's not like we're fighting an unwinning or a battle that we can't win. So I think that enough people have been notified. It's been talked about in the community for sure. But beyond that, I can't read the minds of those that didn't attend or vote. Sorry.
Commissioner Mills?
And just to clarify, you've referenced $50 a couple times, and what we have in our packet is $250.
That's for 5 years.
Thank you.
And
Is
and
that-
that, and the SSD agreement is for 5-year increments, if I'm not mistaken.
the request for Tom was that you do it at one time, 250, it covers 5 years.
I see.
So that's, That is another question as to, what will be the impact and the reaction when people see that? Or
Right.
would you rather have it 50 each year for 5 years?
So,
Commissioner Mills?
thank you. And so in our previous discussion, it was also questioned how many property owners on the lake were a part of the association, and it sounded like it was 50%?
Oh,
or
there's more than that.
more than that?
Oh, yes.
Okay, yeah. And so
I was
previously I would.
thinking like, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Go ahead.
I thought like 78, we had 78%.
Okay. That's helpful.
Madam Chair, thank you. So is the question before the board that we approve moving forward, or whether or not we have a public hearing?
It could be either. You either could approve it today as requested, or have the public hearing to assure yourself that all the property owners are aware and have a chance to speak at a public hearing.
Madam Chair,
Might I also clarify, because I have notes from Tom, and I just want to read this one paragraph. Increasing the SSD to $50 a year would provide us with $6,900 a year. After paying for water testing, which we do anyway, that would have us $5,300 available for this AIS work, this invasive species. And it would allow us to hire the crawdaddies for 7 weeks and then have $925 remaining to support volunteer efforts for fuel, bait, traps, and so forth. So it is 50 a year, in my understanding, which is why I thought I should clarify it.
yeah. Madam
Which
Chair-
isn't quite as 250.
Yeah, if I may. I think to err on the side of participation, that if the timelines can be met and the public hearing can be held, that it wouldn't come back to, the Lake Association, that you weren't all-inclusive and made every effort to be sure that there's participation in moving forward with this recommendation. So if it can comply with the timeline, I think it's in your best interest to build as much integrity into the process to support your recommendation. So,
I hear you.
I think the issue goes to policy. We have a policy for the highways. Should we not have a policy before we act here? And a public hearing is good, but what is the policy? We need to have that.
Madam Chair, I think moving forward, as Brady suggested, that developing a policy makes sense. Given the situation here, I don't believe we're going to be able to develop a policy in the timeline that they need, trying to make this effective for this year to address the issue. But certainly a policy that can be consistently applied, that's inclusive of, what we run into as a county, is very important. So I would say that there's two issues. One is addressing best practice here, and then the board to formulate a policy moving forward so we get consistency in application.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to set a date of February 11th for a public hearing to consider a special assessment of $50 a year for the Caribou Lake Watershed Subordinate Service District. And then in the future, I'd like to see us address the policy.
Support.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Mill?
I believe when we set the public hearing, we have to do a time as well, so.
Right. I would recommend that we do a 9 o'clock.
And does this include sending out notices to each property owner?
Okay. Any further comments or questions?
9 o'clock is good for the support.
Were you okay with the 9 o'clock amendment for the public hearing?
Is that 9 o'clock
On February 11th.
In the morning.
in the morning or in the evening?
In the morning.
All right. I didn't hear an AM or PM on that, so initially I thought, 9 o'clock, what's the people doing going there? Yes, I am.
Okay, hearing any other comments or questions, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much for your
You're
time.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the clarification. Moving on to item number 6, emergency management. Mike Keyport. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, community members. I appreciate a few minutes of your time this morning to elaborate on the 2 white papers that I enclosed in your packet today. They're both supported by the Association of Minnesota Emergency Managers, of which I've been a member my entire emergency management career. The association's been around for going on 70 years, so it's a very recognized professional association. It's a nonprofit. They host an annual conference every year. And over the years, we've always, since I've been around for 14 years, we've always had a legislative lobbyist that we hire with our nonprofit funds. We've kind of had the same one for a number of years. When her contract came due last year, 2024, we reached out, and the Association of Minnesota Counties lobbyists reached out to us and offered their help, and so we did hire the Association of Minnesota Counties as our lobbyist for the AMEM association. It's been just a wonderful working relationship. They've been around the legislative stuff longer than anybody, and they've really helped us out. So I'll begin with the Emergency Management Funding Initiative. This has been going on for, I want to say, 7 years. Under the AMEM umbrella, we have a legislative committee that I've been a member of. I think 4 years ago or 5, I actually testified during a budget session to the public safety group. So we've been trying for this funding. As you can see from the white paper, it reads that we're asking for $12 million, which equates for $117,000 for each county, tribe, and city of the first class in the state of Minnesota. Our reasoning behind this is that we do get what's called EMPG, Emergency Management Performance Grants. That grant is dwindling each year. It gets smaller and smaller. For Cook County, I don't want to say it's not a big deal, but the grant is based on population. So your metro counties are getting some money. We've traditionally got anywhere from $14,000 to $16,000 a year, so it's not huge. So with that money dwindling, and as you all know, I've been at this microphone before talking about disasters. Our disasters are going up. Our money that we get to work on them is going down. So that's our main reason for going after this funding. And it's not grant funding. It's no match. It's direct funding is what we're asking for. Now, having said that, will we have to report back to the state what we use this funding for? Yes, we will. I've also reached out and have been working with Ruth Vogel, the emergency manager in Grand Portage. Grand Portage also has a very active tribal lobbyist. He's been around for quite a number of years. Very well known, so he'll be helping us also. So good news on that front. I would pause to see if there's any questions before I move into the weather radar gap on the EM funding.
Any questions? Commissioner Sullivan?
Not a question, but I just know from working so closely with emergency management that the funds have decreased, and when we see the types of disasters we are experiencing, it's really important that we have a lobbyist that's working with us, and I'm glad to see that Grand Portage lobbyists will also be participating in this, but we really need this, and we need to support it when we go to the legislature as well.
Mhm. So moving on to the weather radar gap funding, I'll explain that. The white paper kind of explains it, but how this came forth is that in northwestern Minnesota, there was a professional weather spotter, been doing this for, he was known as a veteran weather spotter. He was banking on Duluth and Fargo's weather radar to go out and do his work. Silo blew over on him and he was killed. So it got folks talking about, well, how come he should have known? Well, what they realized was that the radar from both of those sites wasn't strong enough to get to where he was actually at. So we solicited, again, the AMEM group has a weather gap committee of which I'm also a member of. I was asked to be a member because Cook County is very affected by this weather gap. And as we know, you can never be on enough committees, but so the science behind it is with the curvature of the earth, our weather radar we get from Duluth can reach approximately 130 to 150 miles. Well, that puts us right where we're sitting. So east and north of us, Boundary Waters, Grand Portage is hardly getting anything when it comes to the weather radar gap. So that's kind of the science behind it. We've been meeting, this committee's been meeting for well over a year. We solicited a retired meteorologist who has been just super helpful, real smart guy. We also reached out to, this isn't just happening in Minnesota, it's happening throughout the nation. And it's nothing against the Weather Service. We're not working against the Weather Service, we're working with them. They're very aware of this, they're very aware of what we are doing as an association. So we reached out to a company that was used in other parts of the country called Climavision. They were very willing to work with us. We with them started a pilot project. They constructed 3 going on 4 radomes, they call them. Two of the 3 that are active right now are on the top of water towers. We don't really have that option in Cook County here, but they're very effective. They're collecting data and they're working again with the Weather Service. So we'll continue that pilot project until the funding comes through, which is our ask to our legislators. Again, there's not really a dollar figure behind it, but we want to keep this moving forward. And Cook County is slated. I want to say there's 2 in front of us, or maybe 3, and then Cook County is slated to be the next one. So as bringing this forward, the committee wants to meet with the partners up here. So I've reached out to Ruth in Grand Portage. I'll be reaching out to the airport should that be a site. Ideally, Rowan and I have discussed possibly between here and Grand Portage, Hovland area. So I'll be reaching out to a group to start conversations in virtual meetings, and then the couple of the committee members want to come up and see our fine county and look at some of these sites, likely with Climavision in their back pocket, so they can get a good idea what they're looking at, especially with our unique topography up here. So that's our 2 asks. Again, this is just for your information, so you know what I'm doing. Our lobbyist we just met last week. He was going to put together kind of a draft letter of support with this basic information on both these initiatives. And then we can take that if you choose as a board of directors to, and we can tweak that any way we like. And then that will go with the packet, as it is, as you know, a budget year. So now is the time to get down there. We have solicited the fire chief in Duluth to testify for us. We believe we have a county sheriff. It's been kind of known that when I testified, well, they say, well, I'll wear a suit and a tie. Well, I don't wear a suit and a tie to work, and so it doesn't fit. But when the legislators see somebody in uniform, maybe they pay attention a little more. And I bring this forward to you because sometimes a county commissioner, as you see our legislators at different places, holds a little weight, maybe a little more weight than me even. So if the letter of support is something you all want to do, I can work with Rowan, of course, on it and get that in front of you if that's something you're interested in. Other than that, I just wanted you all to know what I'm working on.
Thank you very much for the updating on that. We will be going down to see the legislators, and especially Senator Hoschild and Representative Scraba, so I just made a note here that we can put that on our list too. Commissioner Sullivan?
I just want to make a comment that at last year's Emergency Management Conference, we did have somebody come in that talked about this radar gap and talked about how it is not only an issue for finding out about the weather, but in terms of just letting our pilots who are flying through the area know what conditions exist. We've talked about it up at the airport. I know you mentioned 2 of the 3 radar units are currently on water towers, and 1 is at an airport. So I'm anxious to have that conversation with the airport. Mike, maybe you can come out to one of our meetings and visit with that group of commissioners. But it is something that's really important for overall safety for our community. And so I really would support that and would encourage us all to write a letter of support.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would make a motion that Mike work with Rowan in drafting a letter that would be prior to our attendance so that we would have that for a consistent, voice and reinforcing recommendation.
And I'll second that motion.
Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Perfect, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Commissioner Gamble, I think we're going to wait a couple minutes. Highway Department has been very calm back there and waiting for their turn. So we'll go ahead with that, and then we'll go to those 2 points. Good morning.
Morning. Excuse me. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Today you get the B team. And so Engineer Kimmel Haas is actually out on an unforeseen illness. So we are standing in. And what we're talking about today is awarding the contract for Mill the Hill and associated projects. This is Jacob Baker. He is going to be the engineering tech who works on this project. So if there's any specifics about this project, he can hopefully answer those. Otherwise, it's our recommendation that the Highway Department awards the contract 1276 to the low bidder KGM Contractors at the cost of $11,561,762.02. And I think people are vaguely aware of the project and what it encompasses. It's pretty complex. There's a lot of funding sources, and we can kind of talk a little bit about those if needed. But kind of the underlying important thing to remember is it's zero levy dollars. So, yeah. Does anybody have questions right now?
Maybe you could just describe where it's going to be? Is it on the Gunflint?
Yeah, so Mill the Hill is the hill, Gunflint Trail. And Jacob, I don't know if you want to talk more about, it includes also the cutoff road as well as a bridge as you round the corner that goes over the Little Devil Track.
Yep, so the project would start essentially at the intersection with Fifth Avenue here in town. The Gunflint Trail itself will be milled off and overlaid, heading all the way up to the Four Corners intersection at the golf course. Working through there from about the water tower, just a little bit east of the water tower up to Pincushion, there will be the addition of a slow traffic lane going up the hill. So that will be 4 lanes instead of 3 like it is now. Then as you come around the bend up by Hogs Bend, there's a culvert on the Little Devil Track River that's currently buried, I think approximately 40 to 60 feet down. That culvert will be replaced with a 168-foot single-span bridge. And then, like he mentioned, the cutoff road will be milled and overlaid as well, and the intersection of Old Ski Hill Road and the cutoff road will be realigned. So instead of the 2 roads meeting the Gunflint at a single point, which leads to kind of a bituminous parking lot there, it will intersect it just perpendicularly, and Old Ski Hill Road will actually come into Cutoff Road at a more perpendicular angle as well, so.
Okay. Commissioner Mills.
Can you remind us, is there a shoulder work or something as well? Or I thought there was a paved shoulder or something like that.
As far as the shoulders, I'm sure that they would probably be paved heading up the hill. I'd have to look to answer for sure, but I think what may be sparking your memory would be the addition of that 4th lane and then the turn lane going into Pincushion as well.
Yeah.
And in terms of the implications on traffic and project specifics, Robbie is planning on hosting a town hall later in the spring. So if that's helpful just in terms of public knowledge of what the implications are and then what the detours are, because there will be a big impact on the summer, that information is going to be public.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes, I'd just like to thank Matt for bringing that up. The Gunflint Trail and District 4 has been very well informed by Engineer Haas about the project. He's worked closely with the Gunflint Trail Scenic Byway. Information has been shared with Cook County Lake Associations, and all of the resorts are very aware as well. So through the Gunflint Trail Association, there's been communication. But I think that public meeting coming up is going to be really important. There have been lots of reminders on our local radio station and in the newspaper as well, but really important that people understand it is going to be slow going. Give yourself extra time, be patient, and it will all work out, and the work should be done next summer. And then in coordination with that, you may recall that Soil and Water is going to work on issues that have occurred to the Little Devil Track River, and they got 319 funding through the feds, have looked at that carefully, and I see that Soil and Water is here. Is there anything, Elena or Stephen, that you'd like to add about the project that you're doing?
No, sorry, I don't have much of a voice. It's been a good collaborative effort, and we are using, in addition to 319 funding, One Watershed, One Plan funding, and we're just thankful to be working with the Highway Department. It's just been a really good partnership over the last year and a half to try to figure it out. It's a new way moving forward to really, what's going on in the landscape and how it's impacting water quality. What can we do to, work together so that it's one cohesive project. So it's been a really good experience, and we're all learning as we go along.
I think it'll be really great to have a 168-foot bridge instead of an undersized culvert that's cutting out the shoreline on the other side of the river, and it's going to be, again, a really great collaborative effort, so thanks for that.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding the bridge, as an engineer, when you look at these projects with the Devil Track there and with our weather concerns in the winter and stuff, is there anything that's proposed to mitigate any issues relative to that bridge and icing?
We may have to kick the can down the road on this one. This may be a question for Engineer Haas. Like I said, we're sort of the B squad here, but
yeah.
We can certainly bring those. He's watching right now, and I'm sure he can address those at another time.
Yeah. Well, when you're, assessing improvements and changing things over, experience as an engineer and planning, whatever, that those kinds of issues would be addressed so that the public's assuages relative to any concerns that might be created that we didn't anticipate. So that's just a question that I've had posed to me, so,
Yep.
thank you.
Commissioner
Madam
Mills?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to award the contract 1276 to KGM Contractors for the cost listed.
Have a motion and
I'll second that motion.
a second by Commissioner Sullivan. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you, B-Team.
Mill of the Hill sounds like it could be a song. Anybody want to work on that?
Banjo sound.
Thank you.
With a little
Thank
song.
you.
There's a little dance that goes with it.
So back to Commissioner Gamble's questions on H and I. H
Yep.
would be the promotion of Angelique.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, H and I were both promotions, and I just wanted to make a statement relative to that, and certainly it's, coming in as a new commissioner with some previous experience in Personnel Committee, I haven't been part of the process in informing these decisions, these promotions, but as just a generic statement, respectfully, I would say that it would be good, and to the extent that the board has conducted much of this, that's appreciated, but I think an evaluation of staffing and efficiencies for a county our size is something that we should undertake. It's not an easy task, but it is a task that I think would be important, certainly an important statement to the community that we do that evaluation. It's healthy to evaluate efficiencies, and I know there's been effort relative to redefining job descriptions to make sure that we cover our bases in those areas, but that was my reluctance out of respect, nothing to do with the individuals that are being promoted, but just as a suggestion that it would be good for us to evaluate that. And to the extent that as a new commissioner I can be informed on the efforts that have been invested in defining roles and responsibilities and staffing for a county our size, I am certainly welcome to understand that.
Thank you for your comments. One thing that happens, and when it just appears here on the paper, there is, we have HR who works with this, we have the different departments who investigate what the need is for promotion, so anytime, you'd have questions, Allison would be glad to answer them.
Sure.
In terms of how all this happens when it gets to the paper.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments on our process? Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to approve the promotion of Angelique Homan to Deputy Sheriff Investigator and Neil Pederson to Assistant County Attorney 2.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm
opposed simply based upon the statement that I made.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to, there she is, to Land Services, the Temperance Trail Residential Plan Unit Development in Tofty. Morning.
Morning, Madam Chair. Morning, Commissioners. So, with much long in the making, I'm very, very pleased to bring to you the preliminary plat that was recommended for approval at the December 18th Planning Commission meeting. So this is an HRA-sponsored project behind Birch Grove Community School. You may recall back in about this time last year, the conditional use permit was approved for the planned unit development. And a planned unit development for residential uses essentially lays the groundwork for beginning this process. So the preliminary plat was recommended for approval. There was 12 conditions that were recommended to be attached to that approval. Those 12 conditions were pretty important for the Planning Commission to feel comfortable with recommending approval. There's still some kinks that need to get figured out for the project, but there's still time between the preliminary plat and the final plat to get that resolved. So one item that was of interest at the conditional use permit level was how that space for Birch Grove's play area was going to be maintained, and so there was space that was accommodated that was originally put as residential lots that is now set aside as common element for the school uses. So the kids shall still have their space, and that's part of the plat. So this is all accessing off of the Good Neighbor Hill Road, Good Neighbor Drive, and it's a dead end, so instead of a cul-de-sac, it is a hammerhead turnaround, and I did consult with the township and the fire department and other personnel to be sure, and Sheriff Eliason, to be sure that that hammerhead turnaround would be still sufficient for safety and emergency services, and they had no concern about that. So I think that's the biggest thing. It doesn't have the full density of what the original conditional use permit was proposing, but that was taken into consideration once space for septic and stormwater, and then the common element for the school, it all kind of chipped away at the actual buildable space. So the final proposal here is for the full build-out of the plat instead of a phased development. So the full plat itself would have 12 single-family homes with, you'll have to forgive my writing in my report, but it's 2 duplexes, so that was a little confusing, but 2-unit duplexes, so 4 duplex units total. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you for moving this along and working with the developer. This is a long, long piece of land that was designated by the township many years ago. They did put a well in, but nothing ever happened. And luckily with Jason as our HR developer, he was able to find a fellow from southern Minnesota who can come in and work with HRA and the county and all of that. So hopefully we'll have some demo houses up by maybe early summer, late spring, late summer.
Have to do the final plat first. They have to complete a septic design. So there's still some pretty technical things that need to get resolved, but I'm optimistic in 2025. You know, unforeseen things, but it would be very exciting.
Commissioner White?
So is this going to have a shared well and shared septic for all of these units? This is for the public's information.
Yes. Yep. So the development itself is proposed to share the septic and the well. The details of that will get resolved once they kind of do a little bit more field work. But it is designed for all of the septic to flow into one common system. And then the well, they're not exactly sure yet if that's going to be one big well or need to be, maybe a couple of wells. So that part was still uncertain. And I would also note that a part of the discussion was about short-term rentals really briefly. There's a couple of HRA board members that were present that spoke during the public comment period, obviously in support of the project, and they mentioned that the HRA's contract with the developer was going to require covenants that restrict short-term rental activities in the development.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Well, I can say that Neva has done a great job of shepherding this through. It's been a long, long process. But both in working with the HRA and the Planning Commission, there has just been a lot of adjustments that have needed to be made because of the water that's there on the site, because of the bedrock that's on the site, and it's just been quite amazing to watch the plat get developed, and it was my pleasure to sign that plat. I was hoping it would get done in time that I could do that. And so I'm really excited with the fact that this project is moving forward, and I'm very, very thrilled. It's going to make a big difference to people in the West End to have that additional housing, to have some affordable units as part of that project. So very good. Great work.
If there aren't any other comments or questions, I'll hear a motion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd make a motion to approve the resolution for the preliminary plat to subdivide one parcel into 16 residential lots or units as the planned unit development, Temperance Trail, Common Interest Community, preliminary plat with the conditions.
Support.
Okay. Being no other comments or questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, number 9, is Brady with public hearing to consider fee changes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a public hearing for fee changes for any of our departments. We have 2 that are looking to change fees, the Highway Department, the Auditor's Office, but others may be interested as well, so I would ask you to set that date out to February 25th to allow us to get the word out and see if anybody else comes forward with changes. And we could set that date unless there's something else on the agenda at 9 a.m. on the 25th.
Commissioner Mills?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to set the date for the public hearing to consider fee changes for 9 a.m. February 25th.
Support?
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
And the next item is a grant agreement between HRA, the Redevelopment Authority, Cook County, and Harborview LLC. This is information you've had for some time, how to fund the preservation of units at Harborview Apartments for their Section 8 voucher holders. The board previously agreed to $300,000 from our ARPA funds, LATCF, which went to HRA, so they're pledging those funds towards this. And then the county also got a $250,000 grant as part of that IRRB bond. And so that would also, and the purpose of that was for this. So the HRA, Jason wanted to formalize this into a resolution. So that's what this is. You've already approved these. This is just to formalize that in the form of a resolution, which the HRA's attorney at Freiberger created the resolution for us.
Mr. Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Given the conflict of interest, I recuse myself from voting on this.
Accepted. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion. Commissioner
Madam
Sullivan?
Chair, I'd like to approve by resolution a grant agreement between the Cook County HRA, Cook County, and Harborview LLC to preserve up to 22 units of the Harborview Apartments for Section 8 voucher holders.
I'll second that.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Commissioner Gamble? Motion passes with that. Okay, Brady?
Okay, the last item I have is engagement letter for our 2024 audit. And this would be with Redpath and Company. So what it is it's basically a contract, the engagement letter. It describes the requirements that Redpath has to follow in conducting our audit and the preparation responsibilities of county staff and management for the audit. So the fee for the audit, the base fee has gone up 3%, but the total cost is actually down slightly. For the 23 audit, there was a special item for Government Accounting Standards Board, put in a new standard, and they charged up to $1,500 for implementation, which we do not have a new standard this year. So even with that increase, we're at a slight decrease in cost. I would ask approval for engaging Redpath again. We're happy with the services we've received. The main reason we went to private audit is that we had difficulty getting full time and attention from the state audit staff after the audit to explain some of the adjustments that they might make at the end. They're on to their next job, And Redpath has given us the time and attention to understand all of that, and Kelly's getting a very good education on some of this background, so. And it's less funding than the cost for the state audit.
And this is for the engagement of the 2024 audit?
Yes, we just completed the 23, so this is for 24.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a brief conversation with Brady on this, and my previous term as commissioner, it was something that I recommend the board take a look at. We consider looking for private audit as opposed to the state audit, which we have, consistently had done over the years. And in some research and just looking at it, it just seemed that there would be benefit for us to be able to do that. It might be in the area of cost savings, but as is explained here, and in my conversation with Brady, he mentioned that we found more receptivity, and it's informed us more relative to the fiscal responsibilities, and it saved us money. Those are two good things and objectives well worth achieving. In the discussion yesterday with Brady, he mentioned something about the benefits of revisiting the state audit, and maybe, Brady, if you just would like to say something to that point, but.
Just in general, it wouldn't necessarily have to be us, but I think it's valuable for the state auditors to be involved in audits specifically, so that they provide the kind of oversight that they intend to provide, and that they have that experience. I know there's been a large shift to private audits. They used to do most of the audits around the state, other than the very large counties, and now, as the legislature approved, we couldn't go to private audit for years. It wasn't until the legislature approved that we started looking at it, and then we finally did. But I just think in general, it's good for oversight to have that kind of nuts and bolts in order to provide that oversight. We have good people, good practices now, but just to continue that, have that oversight for the future.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to contract with Redpath for our 2024 audit.
Support.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Brady, on all of that. Moving on to item 10, Administrator updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few items of interest to share. Our search for the county administrator, as of Monday, we have 33 applications, and the posting will be closing tomorrow on the 15th, and DDA is still hoping to get a few more, and it looks like we have a good mix of in-state and out-of-state with a lot of varied experience, both public sector and private sector. So look forward to moving forward with that process. LEC expansion project, working with BKV. The next meeting of the design team is Thursday, and there's been some changes, some structural changes to the plan, and we will be still tentatively on schedule to come before the board on February 25th with a schematic design, seeking board approval for what the design team and all of our partners put together for us. The county project in partnership with North Shore Waste continues to move forward. We expect to have additional discussion at our CAL meeting on the 21st. We're looking to have other stakeholders and groups that can inform the conversation there. Ellers, I believe, is going to attend, as well as Assessor Thompson and Land Services Director Nelson, to help kind of paint a full picture so that we can really dial in the best way to move forward with that project. And then lastly, I'll just share the CIP and deferred maintenance continues to move forward with our facilities director, Brooke Lassard, and the southwest corner of the courthouse basement being redesigned for a better use of the space to address some of our immediate office space needs. continues to move forward as well. That's the update of the items that I have.
Okay. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Rowan, do you know, with regard to the transfer station, where the permitting process is in that at all? I mean, do we have to have approval of the design and everything else before we can make that application, which I assume maybe so, to the state?
To the state, I'm not sure. That would be my assumption, that we'd want to have the design agreed upon and supported and dialed in before permitting.
The reason I bring it up is in attending the Northern Counties Land Use Coordinating Board, there was some considerable discussion about the fact of the state process in permitting has just been horrendous.
Okay.
And so a lot of expectation when it comes to plans and timelines and things, you're not anticipating it, but if the discussion coming out of Northern Counties Land Use Coordinating Board is any indication, I just wondered if we've, talked to state about that and whether we see that it's going to be a smooth process or we're going to run up with some disillusionment there, that's all.
That's a good thing to bring up, and I'll see what I can find out and share that, especially considering the timelines that we have associated with funding received for the project.
That's right, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Chair. Rowan, do we have any rough numbers yet for the courthouse basement project?
No.
Okay.
We're waiting to get a design. DSGW is a firm that is in the area working already, I believe, with the hospital as well as the school on some of their projects, and Facilities Director Lassard brought them in, and so they're under contract, but they haven't given us a design yet. Once that design comes forward, there'll be numbers associated, and we'll inform the board as soon as possible.
Thank you.
That's good news for sure. Anything else for Rowan? Okay, then we'll move on to employee concern, commissioner concerns. So I just have an update that was handed me from Grace, that they would like a commissioner representative on the Food Access Council, but I believe Commissioner Mills is not able to do that because of the timing. Is that correct?
No, I thought we voted for me to do that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And we're going to check on the time, and I believe that invite was sent out, and that will work.
January 17th, 1 to 3?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, so you're good with that?
Yep.
All right. So at this time, Commissioner Gamble, we do kind of a round robin and just kind of talk about any meetings that we've been to that would be informative to the group. There's no pressure. Right now, probably we haven't been to too many meetings. I was at the Gitchigami meeting, the trail meeting, and they, the DNR are coming down to post no snowmobile signs on the new portion from the Ski Hill Road to Arrowhead for now. And that's about all they can do. They have contracted someone to clear the trail, so after half a foot snow, I saw somebody out there clearing the trail so people can walk and use it as a trail. So that's my updating. Anybody else?
Well, my updating is the meeting I attended yesterday at the hub and their financials. And David, Commissioner Mills, they really would like to have you come to a meeting so you can ask them questions firsthand. And we did call Brady yesterday during the meeting. We needed historic perspective. And he was very helpful, but and he could fill us all in better at some point. Once upon a time, the hub, or it was the Cook County Senior Center, was a line item. Well, actually, Sharon Bloomquist was an employee of the county. It changed over time, but it was a line item in our budget that the senior center received funding for their operations. At this point, the funding they receive is only through the grant that they apply for through the Public Health and Human Services, which is less than half of what they got years ago. And they want to have a conversation with the board, or do even a presentation about their need to get some sort of more stable, affirmed commitment on an annual basis. They're going after a grant writer and trying to find money that way, but prices continue to rise, and for all of their efforts at fundraising and donations, they're going to need some sort of dependable, some dollar amount that they can count on annually. So they would like to have some sort of a conversation with all of us as a board. It was suggested that perhaps they could be on the committee of the whole agenda for a conversation. And so that was the primary conversation yesterday. And also they are going to be doing a pasty fundraiser coming up, and those details will be forthcoming. So it's a very active place down there.
Commissioner Mills?
So, second Monday of the month, I take it. What time is?
It's 1:30 to 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon, it depends.
Okay, so 1 o'clock.
1:30, starts at 1:30.
Thank you. I'll be in Duluth next month, but the following month in March, I will put that in there and show up.
Okay,
Thank
I'll
you.
let them know. And one thing you do need to know, that they have been given a contribution of a new popcorn machine with new popcorn and oils, and it's really good popcorn these days.
Commissioner White, do you know what the grant amount is that they're receiving right now?
I believe it's like 60-some, Ann might even know, she's a better, $60-some thousand from Public Health and Human Services.
Madam Chair.
And that does not pay for any of their, I mean, I don't know specifically where it goes to,
Personnel.
but they have 2 paid employees.
I think when I was commissioner before, and Commissioner Starley would be able to affirm this, that as a county, we were giving them $50,000. $50,000 is what we were doing. Of course, this would have been through 2016, so considerable time since that time. And I think, well, anyway, looking at funding and what we used to do with non-mandated funding and how some of that's get allocated and moved into public health, that's an area, in talking with other counties, the extent of funding and what we can do, given, pressure on the levy is something certainly we look at. I always encourage that if there were ways that we could come along these organizations and help them, and part of that was just financial management, looking at how much they were generating themselves. That's always a healthy thing to see organizations that were proactive in being able to generate funds, so it was a partnership. And I think that's an important element always in evaluating those things. So,
And that is why they would really like to have a conversation, so all of those questions they have, they get audited, they have their numbers all in place. And it would also, I would like to bring this up, perhaps, that we as the services that, excuse me, the services that are provided, or the space that is offered free of charge to nonprofits down at the hub, is a whole array of community needs. And we as a county commissioners, I would like us to have a conversation about what our values are for leadership. If it is, and it's going to be a balancing act, because we have a growing population with people coming in, buying real estate. I mean, there's nothing wrong with all of this, but when we look at our budget and directions we are going, how do we balance providing for the existing culture, the existing people that have lived here, that have settled here just for decades, their needs, and now many of them are on a restricted budget, with the newer people that are coming in, buying real estate, buying houses, and their expectations that that perhaps they could have, like streetlights in more places, and just some of the things they left behind in the urban areas, and to have them here. And what do we as a board feel is important to go as a county? If we do more roads, we need more people, we need more equipment, and that would be to accommodate the pressure or the requests of people that, though they bought their property on a Forest Service road, which the county does not have a responsibility to upkeep, but it is a safety issue. If we have property owners, county or community people living on a road that is not safe. So what's our responsibility, and how far do we go with that? That's just one little issue. But I would like us to have that on committee of the whole also at some point. Like, how do we all feel about that?
So we have the hub?
Yeah.
Sometime? And where are we going with some of our values, and what do we think?
Yeah,
as
and
far
that could probably all be folded together.
We'll work that out.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Chair. And just for our perspective, the PHHS Fund grant awards, starting in 2018, total was $130,000. 2019 was $130,017. 2020 was $133,505. 2021 was $135,000. 2022 is $137,700. And so that's not keeping up with inflation, and clearly there are many needs in our community that are not being addressed. As far as the funding directly to the hub, in 2018 it was $64,900. 2019 it was $56,440. 2020 is $54,005. 2021 is $51,753, and then in 2022 it was $41,800, I believe, and that was just a quick search. I don't have the 2023 and 2024 numbers, so I'll keep looking for those. But clearly there is a need, and as Commissioner White said, the services that are provided there are integral to our community. So I think it's excellent to look through where the funds are going. In this list, and the process has changed as far as the application is concerned, but in this list, the other agencies was Birch Grove, Care Partners, Restorative Justice, Higher Ed, Community Ed, Cooperation Station, Violence Prevention Center. So all worthy organizations, and all of the requests, well, I shouldn't say that. Most of the requests were not met for the 2022 funding.
Commissioner Mills, just clarification, when you say most of the requests were not met, are you talking about based on what they asked for, or not met at all? In other words, they weren't given any funding, or just it was beneath what their expectation was?
Just beneath.
Okay.
For instance, Birch Grove was asking for 25 and they received 15. Restorative Justice was asking for 12, they received almost 8.
Okay.
Community Ed is 15, and it was almost 10. Cooperation Station was almost asking for 60, and it was around 27,000. The hub was asking for 78,000, they got 41. So that kind of discrepancy, I think, is felt in a major way by those organizations.
Thank you for that information.
That'll all be part of our budget talk when we start discussing that for 2026, for sure. Anybody else have any meetings they'd like to report on?
Thank
Commissioner
you, Madam
Gamble?
Chair. I just mentioned with the Northern Counties Land Use Coordinating Board on the agenda was the issue of transfer stations and solid waste management and the frustration with permitting. Another issue was PILT, which is an ongoing discussion that goes on and on and on, but evidently at the state level, there was a questionnaire that was sent out to the 87 counties, and about 50% of the counties responded. And I think the state took that as sort of a release of responsibility because we didn't have everybody participate. And my recommendation is maybe there was something, if we could understand why 50% didn't respond, if we could help them to simplify the process so that we could have the full voice of 87 counties responding to the PILT issue. And why it matters, as you know, as a board, because you've dealt with this on multiple levels, is that in the rural areas, it's about 10% of what they're getting in urban areas when it comes to the payment of lieu of taxes relative to per acre. And we know how important it is to us in Cook County, and all of these things are that we need to respectfully advocate and be sure that we're reinforcing the importance of this to us in our financing. The other part of it that's frustrating is that the basis under which they evaluate these things is not forthcoming. So we don't know the matrix under which they're evaluating and coming up with whatever. And if you don't have an open, honest conversation in that regard, it puts us at a disadvantage. And that's why I think that it's important for the integrity in the process that the state is forthright in saying, this is how we're evaluating, so we can look at it and see if it's fairly based.
Thank you. Ongoing conversation, yes.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to share that I was able to confirm the North Shore Waste does need to have finalized plans before they're able to submit for permitting.
Thank you for checking that.
Anybody else have any meetings? Commissioner Sullivan?
So I have a number to report on. The HRA is in the process of hiring a new HRA director, and I would like to encourage board members who are able to watch the interviews. They will be live streamed, the finalist interviews, tomorrow from noon to 3. And the Personnel Committee developed the process, set aside questions both for preliminary interviews, which were held via Zoom, and also the secondary interviews that are coming up in person. They've coordinated with Allison Plummer, our HR director, and reviewed applications thoroughly and did those initial interviews and gave kind of a homework assignment to the finalist candidates so they could get writing samples and take a look at kind of their thought process and how they would handle a particular situation. But again, tomorrow those final interviews will be live streamed from 12 to 3. Airport Commission has finished their personnel reviews, they're updating contracts, and are waiting on mediation results and information. Safety Committee has put together a survey, and so all of us as commissioners as well as employees are encouraged to complete that survey. It closes Friday, January 24th. Topics include what types of things you'd like to see as a safety committee in terms of whether it be in-person instruction or video instruction, but just what are the areas regarding safety that you would like to see in the next year. Soil and Water Conservation District has been updating their policies regarding conservation contracts, cost share, and soil health. They updated their credit card policy and put together a fund balance policy. Gunflint Trail Scenic Byway is working with the Cook County Invasives team this year to develop a cleanup day. They're going to pull weeds and collect seeds. So they're working right now on finalizing a name for that event. It will be held in July. And so we'll get updated on that. Cook County Coalition of Lakes met recently, and they have established 4 action groups for this year: aquatic invasive species, which would include the rusty crayfish that we heard about earlier, water quality, surface water, and then trails and lands. And the last things I'd like to bring up are a couple of things that we should think about as community leaders, not only this group, but also thinking about the school district, the hospital, the city of Grand Marais. But we have a community leadership group meeting coming up February 13th. James has always been in charge of those. That goes from 5:30 to 7 via Zoom. And I'm going to recommend that we move forward with that meeting so that we can have all of our community groups come together to talk to us about what we want to do jointly for the legislature. Before we go down there in February, it's really important that we listen to the school district. They have a lobbyist that they're going to be working with. We want to find out the needs of the hospital, the city of Grand Marais, but get all our partners together so, again, we have one voice for Cook County. So again, that's February 13th, 5:30 to 7 via Zoom. And then lastly, I met with Amber Lewis, who is working with Northspan. She's done the Rural Community Safety Program that I've brought up before. And I'm hoping to have an in-person meeting with her on the 16th, and potentially some of the data and information they have collected through our community could be shared with that community leadership group in February. And that would be it for my reports.
Okay, thank you. We'll be in Duluth tomorrow and Thursday. Is there some way that I can get the interview through HRA or?
Yeah, you can get it online, yep.
Okay, all righty on that. Just a couple of thoughts before we move on. When we're voted as county commissioners, I think our lives kind of change a little bit because we're part of a larger group. We get phone calls. We go to meetings that we normally don't go to. And one of the things that I have always been concerned about is our health. And right now we're in a community where we're having some norovirus, we're having flus, we're having upper respiratory things going on. So I would just suggestion that at times Commissioner Mills and I have worn a mask to our meetings. When I go to an event, funeral or whatever, if I think I have a problem, I will test before I come to the board meeting or wear a mask because we're in close proximity here. And if you do find that you get up on a meeting morning and things aren't going well with you, then, you know, give Administrator Rowland a call or Dave a call or myself, just so we know what's going on so that we can be aware of anything that's happening. But it's really important in the winter, not so much in the summer. And I think when we come off the holidays, things are circulating. So just be aware of that. And you know, if we have health concerns in the future, to let somebody know so we can walk the path with you too. So that's just part of being a commissioner and looking out for each other too. So we do have upcoming meetings to note. Cook County Housing and Redevelopment, Airport Advisory, and just a note to everybody that on Monday, January 20th, the courthouse will be closed in regards to Martin Luther King Day. So we do have Public Health and Service Board next week, Committee of the Whole also next week, EDA on the 21st, Board of Commissioners Budget and Facility Advisory Committee. That's all coming up by the end of the month and even into a little bit into February. So we have recognition of our staff that we do now, January staff anniversaries. We have Ann Paulson, who's with Soil and Water 1 year, Caleb Johnson with Maintenance 1 year, Max Tolson, Soil and Water 1 year, Will Schneinbauer, Highway Department 1 year, Ariel Charlier, Public Health and Human Services, 2 years. John Speaker, Public Health, 2 years. Andrea Tofty, Public Health, 3 years. Nathan Carlson with Highway Department, 3 years. Adriana Brisson with the Auditor's Office, 4 years. Brody Smith, Land Services in the West End of Recycling Center, 7 years. Mitch Travis with Land Services, 8 years. Nanette Silence, Highway Department, 14 years. Martina Johnson, Public Health and Human Services, 18 years. And Holly Schroeder in Recorder's Office, 26 years. That office seems to like the people. They like the office. And then we have a milestone anniversary. Leah Ekstrom, MIS, with 10 years. And with that, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Is the, that community meeting, does chamber meet? Yes, in that room?
No.